Reddit sub, Let's Not Meet submitted by JLR995. Like any single 21-year-old, I went on Tinder trying to find my dream guy. Little did I know this would be a big mistake. I came across this guy Scott. I thought he looked like a nice guy, so of course I swiped right. It's a match, yay. I'm not one of those girls that will start the conversation. Too many times I didn't get a reply, so I stopped trying. 2 days go by and I had completely forgot all about my match on Tinder with Scott, until I looked at my phone and saw a notification: Scott has sent you a message. I'm not going to lie, I got a little excited and opened it straight away. It was a normal message, and after that we started messaging more and more. He seemed like a really nice guy, a little weird, but hey, people could say that about me. Fast forward a few weeks, and after him asking me numerous times to meet up with him for a drink, I finally felt comfortable enough to agree. That night rolls around and I head to the bar to meet him. I get there before the meeting time of 7 to make sure I can get a drink in before he arrives to settle my nerves. I was sat at the bar talking to some random girls that were there as I waited. It got to 7:20 and he still hasn't arrived yet, so I sent him a message. He proceeded to tell me that he was sorry and that he just had to stop by a friend's house and it took longer than expected and that he would be there soon. No big deal, I thought to myself. I'll just have another drink. Finally at 7:45 I get a tap on the shoulder. I turn around to see a man that I don't recognize. He tries to hug me and I look at him puzzled, like, who the hell are you? He then told me that he was Scott. He clearly wasn't the guy in the photos that I thought I'd been talking to. He told me that he was really sorry for not telling me that it was in fact photos of his friend that he had used on his Tinder, because he thought no one as pretty as me would give him the time of day if he had posted pictures of himself. At this point I had a few drinks, so I decided to humor the guy and get to know him. I know, huge mistake, and I'm an idiot. Turns out his friend actually told him to use his photos because he thought it would give Scott a chance to meet girls and hopefully they would like him for him and not the photos. The night goes on and we're chatting about small things, definitely no connection with him, so I decide to call it a night at about 10. I noticed that he hadn't been drinking at all during the night, a little strange considering he chose this spot. I tell him that I'm going to get a taxi home and he offers to drive me home. I said no. In my mind I didn't want him to get the wrong impression and have to deal with the whole awkward encounter in case he wanted to come into my place. I say bye and walk outside hoping that there would be an available taxi. No such luck. I stood there for another 10 minutes still waiting when Scott suddenly drives around the corner and insists on giving me a lift home. At this point I was standing outside in the cold, so I decided to accept his ride. I got him to drop me off at the end of my street so he didn't know which house was actually mine. After getting out of the car I started walking and heard him drive off. I rang my friend to tell her how much of a weird night it had ended up. As I was walking to my front door I turned around and saw a car in the distance that looked similar to his, sitting in a dark alley with its headlights off. I didn't think anything of it and went inside. I went to sleep and woke up in the morning to a bunch of messages off Scott saying how much of a good time he had with me and that he was so glad I could get past the fact that he wasn't the guy in the pictures and that he wanted to see me again. Now I never try and lead anyone on, so I replied saying that it was nice to meet him but I don't think that it will go anywhere and we were better off moving on. He clearly didn't get the message because throughout the day he messaged me constantly asking if it was something he did. Like, yeah dude, you posed as your friend to get a date with me. Anyway, I just ignored his messages and hoped he would get the hint. Later that night I was laying in bed watching TV when I heard a knock at the door. I went downstairs and looked through the peephole and no one was there, so I went to the window in the living room to see if I could get a better view. I noticed that there was a box at the door. I thought to myself that it was a bit creepy, but I hesitantly opened the door and got the box. I went up to my room with it and looked inside. It was photos of me from the night before at the bar, but taken from a perspective where I clearly didn't know someone was taking photos. Obviously I'm freaked out at this point and know that it has to be Scott. He must have followed me home after dropping me off. I heard his car drive off though, so he must have come back. I threw the box away and made sure all the doors and windows were locked. I also made sure to block Scott's number. A few weeks had gone by and nothing eventful had happened up until yesterday. I was out taking my dog for a walk and noticed that there was a person with a hoodie on following me from quite a distance. I know he was following me because I took all the back little alleys in a random way, not so I was actually going to a particular destination. It makes me wonder if he has been watching me for the last few weeks or if I'm just being paranoid and imagining it. Either way, I'll be getting in the car and taking my dog to the dog park for the next couple of days. I'll update if anything else happens. Update: I did post in the comments but thought more of you would see it here. I went to the police and they wrote up a report and I gave them screenshots of the guy's Tinder. They said there wasn't really much they could do because he probably didn't use his real name and they haven't got real pictures of him, but if anything else happens I need to report it to them. They also said that they would send a car to patrol my area a few times a day just to be safe. They also suggested I get someone to stay with me, so my sister and her boyfriend are staying with me for a little while until things hopefully settle down. Yes, I know I'm stupid for meeting this guy, but I thought it would be fine meeting in a public place so I don't need the comments about how stupid I was. I'm scared and have learned my lesson and will never be using Tinder again. Everyone's saying I should get cameras. We went out today and got a doorbell camera and some motion sensor lights to put around the place. My dog is also a good guard dog. He's a German Shepherd and is very protective of me.